Hello everybody, this is Deb from Just Do Something Homestead, and today we're going to talk about, can you hold a job and be a homesteader? I am here to say yes, you can. Not only do I homestead full-time, but I am a full-time 4th grade teacher. I also work a part-time job at the feed store and 3 side hustles: my farm stand, the farmer's market, and YouTube. Did I say it was easy? Absolutely not. But if it's a way to get started on your homestead, then I highly recommend it. Let's start with the nuts and bolts about how to get homesteading when you're still working. And then after I've gone over all those little tricks and tips, I'm going to share our story and how we left the suburbs and I'm now homesteading. The first step on your homesteading journey is to start planning. What are your goals? Where do you want to live? What animals do you want to raise and how many? Start with these questions and make a list of all the things that you want on your homestead. Do you want to become self-sufficient, or do you just want to raise a little bit of your food and know that it is grown naturally and organically? What are the goals you have? That list of goals then leads you to step 2. Start saving money. It's often comical that people think that raising your own food and animals and living on the land is cheaper than buying it at the grocery store. That's simply not true. If you were to raise a chicken from the time it hatched from an egg until you butchered it, you would have spent far more than you do buying a chicken in the grocery store. Homesteading takes money, and lots of it. Are you willing to take on another job? Are you searching for the property that you're able to afford? So many people go into homesteading thinking, oh, I'll just get out a loan and a mortgage and more loans. And pretty soon they have to give up on that dream because they owe so much money. Make it a goal to pay cash. If you can't afford 50 acres, then buy what you can afford. Buy 5 acres. Buy whatever it is you're able to save money for and pay cash. If you are bringing in 2 incomes at this point, save one of those incomes completely by putting it in the bank and live off the other one. That will enable you so much growth that you're going to be able to purchase things with the money you saved, and you will have learned how to live on 1 income. Have you ever been on a farm? Do you know a homesteader? I highly recommend that you go and spend days with them. See what it's like to run a homestead, because it's not easy. It is a whole lot of work. There are many people that say they want to raise animals such as cows and goats, but yet have never even seen a cow or goat. So please, I ask you to get as much information as you can, and we're talking hands-on information. Learn what you can before you ever have a homestead. Next, start working on skills. Even if you're living in the suburbs, you can learn how to preserve food. Canning, freezing, vacuum sealing, freeze drying. Learn all of these skills so that when you have your homestead, you will already know how to do them. You've made a plan, you've saved some money, you've worked really hard, and you've learned some skill sets. What is the next thing to do to move forward on your dream of homesteading? You start looking for new property, and if you're looking for a new state, you start looking for your jobs. Find a reputable real estate agent and make sure they are on your side. That was the lifesaver for us, but also spend all the time you can looking for houses on Zillow, Realtor, any of those websites. And don't go completely by the pictures. Surprisingly, our property had horrible pictures. They stood in the road and took a picture of the curve sign. What we never saw was all of this. And this is what we ultimately purchased. And it was only because we came out, we found it ourselves, and we said, hey, I want to check out and see what this land really looks like. I want you to notice what I did not say. I did not say quit your jobs. Because at this point, unless you have paid cash for your homestead, your land, and about 5 or 6 years income, do not take that leap. because what's going to happen is you're going to fail. And there is nothing worse than failing at something you have dreamed about your entire life. Now let's fast forward a couple years, because honestly, that plan is going to take a couple years to be able to do and accomplish. And when we did it, a lot of people said, you're too late. First off, we were older. Second off, the economy was so messed up. But you know what? It all worked out. Your goal now is to work hard, probably harder than you have ever worked in your life, to make this dream successful. Just because you now purchased your homestead doesn't mean it ends. In fact, the work is just beginning. So back to our original question, can you work full-time and homestead? You absolutely can, but sometimes you need to let go of some of those dreams. For me, it was a brand new house. Instead, I have a 1972 fixer-upper. But you need to make sacrifices to reach the ultimate goal. And for me, that was homesteading. Some suggestions once you have that homestead: buy used equipment, used items, ask neighbors, barter, build things yourself, learn how to do skills you never thought you could do. Knock out the extras and save that money. Stop eating out or getting cable. Don't go to the movie theater or do all these things that just aren't that important. You now have an amazing property and the opportunity to spend it with your family. Skip those vacations. You do not need to go to Disney World every year. There is so much that you can do in your local community for free or very inexpensively. Homesteading is often thinking outside the box. One of the easiest farm animals to raise is chickens, but don't feel you have to go out and buy a brand new coop. This is our chicken coop, and it is an old, free shed. That's all you need. And look, the house that we purchased came with a chicken run. Oh, that's right. It's not a chicken run. It's an old swimming pool that they had already filled in. But you know what? It has a solid fence around it. There is no way these chickens are going to dig down and get out because it is a pool. Another sign of resourcefulness. This was an old playhouse. It is now our rabbit barn. Free to us. And in my garden are mineral tubs that beef farmers use. I have planted my herbs in them so that the roots don't spread. Completely free. When it comes to gardening, most people say start small and slowly add as you have time. Not me. I said go big or go home, and we worked really hard to get our garden in within the first year of buying our property. And maybe, just maybe, you don't need to have a job. You need to have 2 jobs. And that is where we are at. We are working as hard and as fast as we can to get this homestead up and running. But that takes money. And for us, we needed to get more jobs. Do you have small children? Add up how much it costs you to work. You heard me right. How much are you paying in childcare and your car and expenses and eating out and all those things? You may be surprised to find out that you could stay home with your children and be ahead of the game. Let's look at 6 things we do daily to balance working outside the home and having a homestead. The first thing is to rise early. Jim and I are both up before the crack of dawn. Jim is up at 3:30. I'm up between 4:30 and 5. That enables us to get a jump start on the day, whether we are feeding animals, mixing food, prepping dinner. Everything is done that I can do before I leave for school. Number 2, Jim and I are constantly checking the weather because when you are farming, everything you do depends on if it's going to be hot or cold, if it's raining a lot or it's dry. So we start the day by checking out the weather for the week. Number 3 is to prioritize all the things we need to do. Most of these are our big projects. For example, Jim just put in our wood stove. It took a long time and a lot of work. I have been trying to remodel our bathroom. Again, it takes a long time. So when you are on a homestead, it is vital that you make a list of everything that needs to be done and put it in order. Number 4 is to leave work at work. That is so very difficult as a teacher. I have a goal that I will do my work at school and not at home. And it's taken me 30 years of teaching to find success at that. But please do not bring your work home. You don't have time when you have Homestead. Number 5 is save money. It is so tempting when you are working to say, I work hard, I deserve it. But you can't have that mentality when you have a homestead. Instead, save as much money as possible and don't spend it on things you really don't need. And the last one, ask for help when needed. There are times that life gets in the way of our plans. You may become sick. You may have a lot to do at work that you can't get away. It is okay to ask for help. And now that I've shared all those ideas on how you can leave the suburbs and purchase a homestead to be your very own, here is our story. Oh, look at that. My garlic is up. So how did we get into homesteading? It seems like such a stretch for a lot of people. How do you go from working a 9-to-5 to suddenly living off your land? For us, it started as a dream. We had a dream to buy land and move to the country. And after we had that dream, we actually pulled out a piece of paper and each of us separately wrote down what we wanted on a homestead. And next, we worked on making that dream come true. So we worked hard and we saved money. We got rid of things we didn't need and we fixed up our house to sell it. My goodness, this zinnia must actually be 4 different plants because I have 4 different colors. But once we made that dream and we decided to put it on paper and we started saving money, the next part was to pray. Where did the Lord want us to go and what was the purpose? Jim felt we were being called to West Virginia, but we didn't know anybody in West Virginia, and I had never even been in the state before. But the Lord put it on our hearts, and as we like to say, the rest is history. But all the plans in the world are pointless unless you're willing to take that step forward and make some action out of it. Don't just say, I always wanted to go to West Virginia, but yet you never did anything about it. It took us over 2 years to find our property, and in that time, we were shown many pieces that we knew were not for us. So the best part for us was to find a very good realtor, and I would spend a lot of my time looking on Zillow and dreaming. When we found this property, we instantly knew this was the land that we had been looking for. And so again, we prayed about it and we put an offer in very quickly. Thankfully, we had all our finances set up. We had no debt because we had worked hard on reducing it to nothing. And so we bought our land. But our property had no infrastructure. There were no buildings. There was nothing, no electric, no lane. We had to start from scratch. But you know what? That's how we were able to buy the land very inexpensively. We had planned actually to build a house, and so that's what we started working towards. And first we put in a lane. We started to get the electric and the septic. That's my bunny saying hi. And then suddenly, 2 years into this project, the neighbor to the property passed away. And they said, would you be interested in buying that house? And my answer was absolutely not. For the first time in my entire life, which was at that point, about 55 years, I was going to be able to design my own home, put in a huge pantry, an area to can my food, a place to hold my freezers, everything that a homesteader dreams of, a root cellar. And suddenly, we were looking at a 1972 house that hadn't been updated in 50 years. But I said, let's look at it. And we went inside and there was orange shag carpet and paneling everywhere. And it was dark and it was old, red plaid carpet. And I said, I absolutely hate it. And the next thing I knew, we said, we'll buy it. And we signed for it. And we bought that house in a matter of just less than a month. And I think that was about the time that it really hit us. This was August, and oh my gosh, I was in a teaching contract for the next year where we currently lived. We had to sell the house, get some jobs, and pack up, move, and my gosh, we had to do it now. So in a place that seemed like it was taking forever, we blinked, and we now owned not only property but a house in West Virginia. And so we officially moved in last January, and it's been a whirlwind. In a perfect world, I would have left my teaching position and stayed on the homestead full time. But we had a tractor to buy. We had a barn that you can see in the distance that we needed to build, gardens that needed to go in, and the reality was you can't do that without any income. I started with a part-time job in February at the local feed store, farm store, which was fantastic. It helped me to learn my new community, get to know people, and I love that job. And then I was hired to teach 4th grade at the beginning of this school year. So I went from working in the suburbs as a teacher to now teaching all day, working on the weekends at the farm store, and doing YouTube, farm stand, and the farmer's market. So if you want a homestead and you need your job, be prepared to know that you are going to be in a constant state of exhausted. Working outside the home and having a farm can be a lot of work. It is tiring, and there are weekends when Jim and I just need to slow down a little. When that happens, we feed our animals, we do the things that have to be done that day, but we take a day off here and there. Maybe we go for a walk together, or we drink some coffee together, but it helps us to regroup and remember why we chose this life. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Have a blessed day, everybody. Bye-bye.